Hi, I'm Kirby Allison, and welcome back to the Kirby Allison Cigar Keep by Vigilant, my beautiful walk-in humidor. In today's video, I'm going to talk about the importance of inspecting your cigars regularly, especially cigars that you are setting aside for long-term aging. The whole idea with the construction of this beautiful Vigilant walk-in humidor was to create the environment that is perfect for long-term aging. That perfect temperature and humidity that is stable and is able to allow me to rest assured that these beautiful Cuban Habano cigars are aging gracefully away without the threat of temperature spikes or fluctuations. But even with an environment like this that in many ways is bulletproof, it is still important to regularly inspect your cigars against their two greatest threats, beetles and mold. Now, tobacco beetles are any cigar lover's nightmare. You can, return to your cigars after having set them aside to find that these terrible little bugs have hatched and basically eaten through your cigars so bad they can actually reduce them to just a pile of dust. The moment that you have a beetle infestation, it is a massive problem. Of course, the modern cigar producers from Habanos all the way through to the New World producers take steps to ensure that tobacco beetles are exterminated before they ship their cigars, but even then you can never be too sure. Now, for protecting yourself against beetles, if you're bringing in cigars, say from Cuba, that you're purchasing either from a Habano shop there or more importantly, outside of the Habano shops, it is important to freeze them. It is freezing your cigars, putting them in the freezer for 3 days. That'll ensure that any tobacco beetle eggs are effectively killed completely, thereby eliminating the risk of tobacco beetles hatching later on. You can never be too careful. Now, with cigars that you're buying outside of Cuba, all Cuban cigars that ship outside the country are frozen before they're exported, ensuring that any tobacco beetles are destroyed. The same thing goes for any cigars from the Dominican Republic or any of the New World cigars. That said, you can never be too careful, and so this is why it's important to inspect your cigars regularly, just to ensure that if you do in fact have a tobacco beetle hatch, that you're able to catch it before it destroys your entire box of cigars, or even worse, jumps a box and begins eating through some of your other prized possessions. Now, mold is another and more common problem that needs to be guarded against. This is an organic material, and that given the high humidity in the mid-60s that you're storing this, it can grow. Now, as long as you catch it quickly and you're able to brush it off before the mold really is getting into the actual foot of the cigar itself, you're completely fine to continue to smoke that cigar. So one of the things that you want to be checking for whenever you're inspecting your cigar regularly is the presence of any type of mold growth. And if you do see it, it's very easy to resolve. So here I am. I'm inside the Kirby Allison Cigar Keep Humidor by Vigilant. I've got my beautiful Habano cigars here. And so I thought we might take a few moments to inspect some of these and kind of go through what it is that one wants to look for. Again, beautiful cigars. Why don't we start with a box of Ramon Allones, the Allones number 2s. This box date, this one came from Davidoff of London, is April 2020. So this now has a good 3 years, almost 4 years of age on it. A beautiful box. This one you can see has been open. And so again, to inspect these cigars, you're simply going to open the box and then take a look, right? So first we're looking for tobacco beetles, right? So I would be surprised if anything these days really has tobacco beetles, but you still want to be careful. And tobacco beetles actually, as long as you're storing your cigars below 80 degrees Fahrenheit, you really don't have to worry about tobacco beetles hatching. It is only above 80 degrees that if there's any eggs still left in the leaf, that they'll hatch. That's why temperature control is so important. But that said, it's still something to watch for and guard against. So as I'm looking at this cigar, again, it's aging beautifully. That smells great. So I'm inspecting effectively the wrapper, right? Rolling this around. I don't see any holes in the cigar. I mean, that's the telltale sign of tobacco beetles, is effectively a small little hole in the wrapper means that someone has eaten through that and poked his head out to take a look. I'm looking at the foot of the cigar. Again, I don't see any mold, which would present itself as like white fuzz. And then plume, again, is some of the crystallization of the oils that you can see on the wrapper itself. There's much debate as to whether or not plume is crystallization of oils or just a fancy word for mold. But I'm not seeing any of that here either. Looking at these cigars, kind of poking through a few of the other ones, right? Beautiful wrappers. Really nothing to worry about here. So I'm going to set this back to rest. So one of the things that I've done in the past is, especially if I find something that I want to monitor, I'll actually take a note card or a piece of paper and date it and write some notes. This is fine, so I'm not going to put anything on that. And we'll set this back here to rest. So let's take a look at some of these Edmundo Dantes. These are a regional limited edition from Mexico. This, unfortunately, is not the Conde 54. This is the Conde Bellicoso. Again, box date of September 2016. So again, we're pushing 8 years on these cigars. And let's open these up and take a look. Great. So this is actually a great example of that inspection process I have here. You can see that this is dated from June of 2017, no mold. June of 2018, no mold. You can see it's been a while since I've inspected these, or at least dated this. But again, this just speaks to the importance of regular inspection. Okay. We're going to open these up. Look at them. Unfortunately, I've smoked 3 from this box. It's a broken box, breaks my heart. But just kind of rolling these around. Again, I'm not seeing anything that jumps out. Trust me, whenever you see it, you know it. The foot of the cigar looks good. And as you can see, one of the things I've done here is I've taken the cellophane, or this tissue, and I've nested it under the cigars a little bit and then folding it over. The idea is to maybe kind of help prevent the cigars from rolling around too much in this now open box. I'm going to put that back. And if I had my pen on me, I would date this, but I don't. So these are good. I'm going to set these back. So let's check this other box. Again, you can see I have my note here. Same dates as the other one. Here we go. Beautiful. Full box of these Edmundo Dante Conde Bellicosos. While we're here, take the opportunity to smell these beauties as they're aging. So aging beautifully. Again, this is where it really becomes exciting. We're pushing 10 years on these. These look great. So I'm going to put this back and we'll move on. So let's continue with the LEs for Mexico, or the regionals. Of all the regionals I've collected, probably with second only to the United Kingdom, the Mexican regionals have been amongst my favorites. So I've got a nice collection of these. They're also, the ones that are easiest for me to come by since Mexico is so much closer than the United Kingdom. Okay, so here's another box. We're going to open this up. Take all of this out. Aha. Okay. So here we go. We've got a great example of a little bit of mold beginning to pop up. So if you look right here on the cigar, you can see a little bit of white fuzz, right? Now this isn't on, it's on the surface of the wrapper, but you can see that it's actually growing. It's three-dimensional. I'll take this out and we'll get a little bit of a closer look at it. Okay. One of the other things I'm going to check for is I'm just going to feel the cigar to make sure that there's not too much humidity. You don't want it spongy, you want it a little bit firm to the touch, because too much humidity, again, can cause mold to grow. It's going to create a more humid environment that's more likely to grow mold. So there we go, we see that right here. Looking at this, it's not in the foot of the cigar. We have some right here, so it's, the mold growth is limited. And again, it's nothing to panic about. It's not the end of the world. It's really easily remedied. There's two things. Effectively, you just want to brush it off. And there's two tools that you can use for that. Here at KirbyAllison.com, we have this 100% goat bristle brush that has a really soft bristle. So you can use this to simply just brush that mold off, right? Any brush will work. You just want something that has a soft bristle that isn't going to damage the wrapper of the cigar. So this pig bristle brush is a great accessory, but You could also even use something like a badger hair brush. I mean, this might be even better because the bristle is going to be a little bit stiffer than the goat hair, right? But it's still quite soft. This is one of our Kirby Allison kind of sovereign grade silver tip badger brushes. And you're simply gonna just brush the cigar, right? Again, and not the end of the world, but you wanna get all of that surface mold off of the cigar. And at this point, if you've seen mold in one cigar in the box, you probably wanna go ahead and just brush all of the cigars in the box off to just ensure that anything else is removed. Again, here we have another one. You can see this is kind of jumped over a little bit. So again, just going to simply brush set that aside. Here you can see some faint growth right there, it looks like. What I like about the badger brush is, again, it's such a soft bristle that you really don't have to worry about damaging the actual wrapper of the cigar. So you can actually even, be a little bit firm with the bristle to just make sure that you're getting everything off. Okay, so then I'm gonna take a look at the box. Again, just gonna brush everything out. And then let's take these cigars and put them back. So one of the other things that you can do, I mean, at this point, I've found mold. So I probably definitely would want to write down on a piece of paper, maybe putting it inside the box, the date, and the fact that I was able to, find mold, and then I brushed it off. So that the next time I check in this box, I'm able to have a reference point. And this is probably a box that I would check in on a little bit more regularly now. Now, at this point, I think, in my experience, you're generally pretty fine. You're not gonna see that mold really grow back. But if you were to see it, come back, then of course you're gonna brush your cigars again. And then at that point, there's two things that you could do. One, you could freeze them, or one of the things I've kind of contemplated experimenting with is actually putting the entire box and the cigars under a UV light for, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes or an hour. I haven't done any scientific tests, but, for a little bit of time because the UV light will kill all the mold. And so that, again, just is going to be able to further guarantee that you're sanitizing this environment, the box itself, so that whenever you put those cigars back, that the mold just doesn't return because you had some mold spores in the box. And now mold is, again, something that I'm always thinking about, and it's honestly one of the reasons I put a HEPA air filtration system in my humidor. The idea that if I'm out here brushing the cigars and and basically spewing mold spores into the air, that this HEPA air filtration system is able to filter those out. Again, this is not an insignificant amount of money that I have tied up in these cigars. And so I do want to protect them as much as possible. That was, again, the whole premise behind the creation of this walk-in humidor, was to give myself more control over the environment and more, I guess, insurance, if you will, that the proper temperature and humidity not only would be maintained, but would be maintained consistently and with stability over time. Okay, let's take a look at this real quick. Okay, so I'm looking at this box right here. We've got a little bit of just discoloration I see at the head of this cigar, but when compared to the other box, it really is nothing like that. So I'm just gonna take my finger and kind of rub that off. A few little dots, here on the head of the cigar, but nothing like what I saw in the other ones. If I knew someone that owned a testing lab, it would be fascinating to know whether or not that's some type of contamination that happened whenever these were being boxed and shipped. This box mostly looks good except those two exceptions. So I'm going to put these cigars back. Try to get the cigars all nice and pretty as they were presented, with all of the bands facing up as they were before. As we saw on the El Laguito tour that we did on the Kirby Allison channel, A lot of work goes in to the presentation of the cigars in the box itself, so that when you open these up, they look beautiful. Okay, so there you have it. Just a few suggestions or recommendations about the importance of inspecting your cigars regularly, even if they are sitting away to age beautifully in the perfect conditions. You still want to open those boxes and check them periodically. I'm Kirby Allison here on Cigar Keep. Let me know what you think in the comments section below if you have any suggestions or any of your own practices for just ensuring the proper long-term aging of your cigars. Please do let me know. Otherwise, if this is the first time you're watching a video on Cigar Keep, make sure you hit that subscribe button and go online to cigar-keep.com and register your own keep, where you're able to keep an inventory of all of the cigars in your humidor, virtual humidor of sorts, and connect with Cuban cigar aficionados from around the world. Thanks for watching.